I'm Gary Martin, one of the PGA Pros from Huddersfield Golf Club, and today we're going to be having a look at some of the essential items that I carry in my golf bag. So this video has been inspired by one of the viewers. He popped up in comments and he said, Gaz, he says, why don't you do what's in the bag, but don't do the club side of things, do what's in the lower half of the bag. And I thought, you know what, that's actually quite a good idea because you know, over years that I've played golf, there's been occasions in competitions where I've felt a bit unprepared and almost felt like I'm, you know, when you're kicking yourself because you've not got that weather glove in your bag, or, you know, there's a certain piece of equipment that's just not in your bag. And I feel now after these, you know, all these years and the experience that I've got, I'm prepared for all occasions. And sometimes, you know, if I'm playing, you know, I don't play that competitive anymore, but it might just be an away day, you know, where there's a few pounds to play for. I've got to admit, if weather's bad, I feel an advantage on rest of the field because I know I'm prepared, you know, and there's a few other bits and pieces in my bag that we'll discuss. You know, whilst you're in lockdown at the minute and there's not a lot to do, if something pops up and, you know, you think, oh, that might help me in my game, I suppose, you know, what a great time while we're all in that buying mood and we're all looking to spend that little bit of money. I think it's a great video, so let's go, let's do it. Start from the top of the bag and work my way down. So firstly, just have a look what's in here. I know what's in here, of course. So a laser. So I carry a laser. The reason I carry a laser is because I feel like my distance control is pretty good. So I like to know the distance to the flag, or, you know, if I'm laying up on if I'm hitting into a fairway, I like to know the layup distance. It may be to a tree or a bunker. And I, obviously being a low handicap golfer, you know, I feel that this would be more beneficial to me than a GPS. However, as I was progressing as a golfer, you know, I started at 28, you know, back then there weren't available GPSs or lasers, but certainly I think as I got to about 18 handicap and they became available on the market, I remember getting my first Sky Caddy. It were a Sky Caddy 2.5, I think they called it. You know, whatever it were, but that was so essential to me because I remember being off 18 and my dispersion with irons weren't that good. So, you know, I could strike a good 8 iron and it might go 160 yards, but then a miss hit might go 140. So I had this big 20-yard dispersion. But I remember at the time how I used to use that GPS to my advantage, whereas I used to look at the front of the green and I used to look at the back of the green. So once I knew the depth of the green, even off that handicap, I was very certain that I was choosing the right club to hit the green. You know, I weren't particularly seeking pin, but just knowing that depth at green to me, it were invaluable. You know, I remember, you know, having so much confidence knowing that I got a club that were going to reach the green and I got a club that weren't going to go through the green. And as an higher handicap, you might relate to that. You know, that might be just the confidence that you need to sort of get down to that next level. So while we're on the subject of sort of GPS and laser, I think if you're a higher handicap with a big dispersion in distance, you know, maybe look towards the GPS, and then as you progress and you sort of tighten that distance control up, you know, I think you know, probably benefit from looking at a laser. And I know that, you know, if you've got plenty of money to spare, I think they do like a bit of a combi, don't they? Which is one that I've kind of considered because I still do value depth for a green, but obviously, you know, if you can only carry one and, you know, being a low handicapper, it was just the laser that I went for. So there we are. We're going to get into the main pocket. This one's quite full. One thing I hate in golf is being cold. I hate getting cold. I'm somebody that always underdress. Wherever I go, I always feel a bit not in style, but or dressing under for the occasion. But actually, I'm always cold. I'm a cold person. So if you're like that, just make sure. In fact, there's one item I'm not getting in my bag thinking about this, but we'll get to that. So I've got the mitts, absolute essentials for me. Got the woolly hat. All right. Make sure you've got these. Guys, you might be listening and thinking, you know, this is, why is he showing me a woolly hat and gloves? You know, that's obvious. It might be to some of you, but honestly, there'll be some people that don't have a woolly hat, don't have gloves. They might not have a, you know, I've got a waterproof jacket in here, always keep that. Even in summer, you know, there's always a chance of getting showers. We've got the waterproof trousers, very lightweight, very packable as well, you know, so get plenty in there. I carry a couple of training aids as well. I think I would class these as essential, especially this putting one, because there's quite often, I always get here, you know, a bit early and have a bit of a warm-up chip and put it a few balls. There'll be that odd occasion where you get on putting green and you feel like you're just pushing ball, or you could just be pushing it. And I think unless you've got something visual, so I carry a Visio, it's like a mirrored sort of alignment aid. It really just helps me get that little bit of confidence before I get on course. You know, I'm not going to do a full sort of, you know, practice session, but just in my warm-up, if I can sort of if I get this out for 5 minutes, I can sort of correct, you know, any sort of issue that I might have had, whether it might be just the shoulder alignment or, you know, I just weren't quite on the right path. It just gives me that bit of confidence before I get onto the course, because the worst thing you can do, and this has only come through experience, is stepping onto course with your last memory on putting green of you've been pulling everything, you know. So, you know, it may only be 2 or 3 minutes I spend using this, but it just makes me a little bit more confident before I step on that first tee. The other one, I mean, this one's just something I use. It's called a swing sling. That one just helps me get good sort of body and arm connection. So I don't know if you're in the same position as a bit. Sometimes I sort of get a bit quick with my arms and my hands. And this one just reminds me to sort of turn and coil and keep a lot, you know, everything a little bit more connected. So it's not one that I use really before play, but you know, I keep it in my bag for when I get to driving range, and every now and then when I put that on, it certainly does just remind me, and it just gives me that feeling of keeping connected. So I really do enjoy that one. It's a pretty obvious one here. Towel might seem obvious, but how many times have you forgot your towel? And you know, you're trying to borrow your friends, and you know, you've got dirty club faces. There's nothing worse, especially in your lower part. Well, it's no good for all your clubs, is it? If they're dirty and they're wet, you know, you're not going to get the most out of them. So you know, make sure you've got a towel on your bag. Pretty obvious one. Let's have a look in this pocket here. Tees. I'll just pull these out. See, again, you know, it might seem obvious to most of you, but if you've watched some of my earlier videos, we got Lee on the channel who he were a newer golfer. You know, he'd been playing golf 8 months, didn't have a pitchfork. So there might seem, you know, simple things to us, but to your newer golfers, you know, simple, you know, they might not have a Sharpie pen in the bag to mark the ball. You know, it might seem simple if you're a mid-handicap or you've been playing golf a long time. But so if we just look in that pocket, we've got Sharpie pen, that's going to mark as ball, so we can identify it's our ball. I've got a pitchfork and a ball marker. I've got quite a few ball markers actually, what I've collected over the years. Selection of tees, pencils, more pitchforks. I always carry a lot of pencils, but I always end up getting a lot of pencils away as well. So I have been caught out on occasions where I'm one who hasn't got a pencil, which is sometimes quite annoying. This is a good tip. This is one from my dad. He's always suggested this, and God, you know, you don't appreciate this until it rains really heavy and you've got a dry glove in your bag. And this could be probably one of the most valuable tips actually. So I do wear a leather glove most of the time when it's dry, but God, this has saved me on so many occasions. A wet weather glove. Now I know there'll be a lot of people don't carry a wet weather glove, and I cannot sing the praises of one of these enough, because you know, again, when it's raining and your grips are wet, you know, your grips might be a bit old and, you know, slippy. These are unbelievable. Now I'm ashamed to say this, but I've been caught out twice without one of these in my bag, and it's really cost me. In professional tournaments, I remember being at Doran Totley in Sheffield. I think I was going down about 15 and I was level par, playing really nice golf, and he absolutely started bouncing it down. I looked in my bag and I'd not got a wet weather glove, and I am not kidding you. My grips were wet through, my glove were wet through. It had just come out of nowhere, this rain, and I'm hitting sort of a 140 yard shot into green. I've come to turn, and the club has literally flown out of my hand on me as I'm coming down, and I think I ended up finishing about 5 over. And God, you cannot believe how angry I was with myself. Do you know what I mean? In a professional tournament, I think, you know, maybe 1 under 1, so I'd have been really in contention. Well, I've certainly won some money, and believe it or not, a couple of years later, I found myself in a similar position where, again, I was in a professional tournament and I looked in my bag and for some reason I've not got my glove in there. So, you know, and again, a club came out of my hand again, you know, so these are unbelievable. If you've got one of these in your bag and it rains heavy, believe me, it's a massive advantage. It's at least a 5-shot advantage, and mentally it's an advantage because you just know you've got that secure grip, and you know, it's like a little bit of a mental battle sometimes. Sometimes you're thinking, well, you're almost, you know, not hoping your playing partner's not got one, but it is an advantage, you know, believe me. So that's a little tip from me, and keep them in this sort of little wallet, especially if you're carrying a leather one. Keep them dry. Get a little sort of plastic bag. I would usually carry more than one leather glove, but obviously we've not got into the season yet. I do need to order a few more, but I'd always have like 1 or 2 leather gloves in my bag. I think, you know, maybe on a really hot day where your hands might sweat, you could probably benefit from a spare one just to swap halfway around. Now moving on to golf balls, I play the Pro V1, alright. You know, what can I say? I might be being a bit old-fashioned here. I know there's loads of sort of ball fitting options now, and you know, they're going to fit you for sort of best spin rate, best carry, you know, best trajectory and all that kind of thing. But I played Pro V1 pretty much all my golfing life. Obviously, not all my golfing life. When I first started, I think I remember liking Arnold Palmer's actually. Me and my mate used to like them because they got an umbrella on them. Sounds a bit sad, but yeah, as I sort of got to sort of maybe 18 handicap, 19 handicap, and my dad used to use Pro Vs, he'd let me, you know, borrow a couple for tournaments and stuff. And pretty much ever since I've stuck to a Pro V. And the reason I use them mostly, and what I really value about them, is just that feel and that control around green. I believe it's second to none. You know, I think if I've got to get over a bunker and stop it on a green, I just do not believe there's a better ball than this. And I have tried many a balls. You know, I know James gets tailor-made balls, and you know, he said that I can use a few tailor-made TP5s, and I've tried them. And do you know what? I'm going to be honest. If there was one ball that I could actually swap to, it probably would be TP5, because that's the only one that I felt compares to feel-wise. You know, it's pretty similar. Distance-wise, you know, there could be an argument for me to say that I felt it might have been a tad longer, but I'm just not willing to sacrifice what I know. You know, I just feel so comfortable with this, even though the ball's changed that much over years. I remember being shown one from 2010, and it's almost a complete different Pro V, but it's just that something, you know, that familiarity, and I just can't see me ever changing, to be honest. I mean, as I say, if there were any likeliness of me changing, it probably would be TP5s, but I'd have to be getting them for free. I'm going to be honest. If I'm buying balls, then I don't think I'm ever going to leave a Pro V1. And I don't think anything fitting wise could even change that. It's just how I feel, and you know, maybe that's being old fashioned, but I think if you've got something that you're confident with, and you know, no matter, I don't want to disparage custom fittings, but for me, if somebody fitted me for a Bridgestone ball or a Callaway ball and said it was an extra 5 yards, I don't care. I do not care, because this, for me, feel and control around green, that's the most important thing to me. And you know, if another ball can go 5 yards further, so be it. I'm not interested. We're getting to the final few pieces now. This one's key. We all get these free with an adjustable driver, but do we carry them? There's been probably only 2 occasions where my head's just come loose, you know. So you might have been in this scenario where you know, your head's just come a little bit loose, and you're scrambling around in your bag and you've not got it with you, and you're asking your playing partners. And I think both occasions where my head's come loose, my playing partners and I have not had one of these in his bag. So it's the wrench that you get when you buy a driver. I mean, most fairway woods these days as well, you know, they're adjustable. So, you know, make sure you put that in your bag. You might only ever need it 1 out of 100 rounds, but believe me, there's nothing more frustrating when you're in a competition and then you realise you've not got your tool, and your head comes loose on your driver. So we're getting right to the bottom of the bag now. I think I've got a bottle of water, obviously staying hydrated. There's a couple of things that's missing actually, which I'm a bit disappointed about. I've not got hand warmers in there. I like to get disposable hand warmers in my bag because for feel in your hands, if you lose that feel, if your hands get cold, you know, it's bloody hard work. Not got sun cream, obviously it's the winter here in UK, so I've not got any sun cream in my bag. You know, again, let's get the sun cream on. Umbrella, they are additional weight, but carry them because I'm not somebody that actually likes using an umbrella, and you certainly won't see me on a rainy day using an umbrella all the way around. But if there's ever a really heavy downpour, I think it's great to just be able to, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, get over it. And then as soon as it gets light, if you don't like using an umbrella, just put it away as soon as it's light enough that you know, you can get around without an umbrella. But I think they're definitely worth carrying around. You know, you need an umbrella. I think finally, I said I was going to start at the top, didn't I? But I think I missed these. Finally, alignment sticks. There's many different drills you can do with these, and I like these. You know, simple things. It might just be a few swings before I hit some full shots, just to loosen up. Using them for loosening up. Certainly alignment. I like to stick one in the floor as well, and concentrate on hitting over a target line. And there's all sorts of bits and pieces you can use these for. But I do think, you know, what are they, £5 each, pair for a tenner? They're certainly worth having in your golf bag. There's a lot you can do with them. So, that brings us to the end of what's in my golf bag. I hope you've learned something from that. If there's anything you've got in your golf bag that I'm missing, or, you know, any essentials that you carry and you think people in the comments could, because a lot of people are going to get in the comments and be reading comments, so you could maybe help me out, help other subscribers out as well. Yeah, get in the comments and let us know. And we'll see you in a couple of days.